Yes, you read that right. That is the PRO of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Mr. Amin Lamptey. That is what he said. Stay tuned. We got the facts for you. Welcome back, A-Steven fans and boxing lovers. So the headline that you are seeing was an article put out by Boxing Ghana that ACE-TV happened to lay eyes on. Now in this article, which Boxing Ghana reports, they indicate that the PRO of the Ghana Boxing Authority, Mr. Amin Lamptey, was asked a question by K-Box TV. And a conversation ensued in this discussion, in which K-Box had asked Mr. Amin Lamptey whether Richard Comey was licensed by the GBA. Mr. Amin Lamptey did respond that he was once licensed by the GBA, but the license has expired. Throughout the conversation, K-Box did ask if the GBA still considers someone whose license has expired a member or a licensee, which Mr. Amin Lamptey did say yes. Despite the license expiring, they do consider someone who has held a license or has not renewed a license or has an expired license still a member of the association, and therefore all the rules of the GBA will apply. Of course, ACE-TV did not end here. We reached out to different sources who had first knowledge of this conversation, and there was more to this conversation that we have right here that we are going to bring to you. So it appeared that K-Box TV was perplexed by what Mr. Amin Lamptey had said, because we all know that the purpose of a license is to make sure that you are following the rules or regulations of whoever the licensor is. During the conversation, K-Box TV was asked, would he consider a driver whose license has expired still a driver? Now, if listeners are paying attention to this analogy made by Mr. Amin Lamptey, Mr. Amin Lamptey was essentially indicating that a driver is still a driver whether they have an expired license or not. Frankly, I thought it was the worst analogy, especially a person within the GBA could make. Let me educate listeners or the audience of Mr. Amin Lamptey. Mr. Amin Lamptey, the purpose of licensing is not to say you are a driver or you are a boxer or you are whatever. The purpose of a license is to make sure that you are following the rules, the regulations of the licensor, the organization that is licensing you. So that analogy of whether if your license has expired, are you still considered a driver or not, is the worst ever. Richard Comey is a boxer and will always be a boxer. That doesn't mean Richard Comey can go to Australia and just go and fight without being licensed by an authority. Do you understand? I don't know who the Mr. Amin Lamptey is pulling wool over eyes, but that was the worst analogy ever. What I think is happening here is Mr. Amin Lamptey was essentially playing down the weight of a license. And I know this because in the conversation he went on to talk about other people, trainers, boxers, promoters that for about 3 years essentially are allowed to operate without a license or without a renewal of license, indicating that that doesn't mean they are not welcomed by the GBA. Mr. Amin Lamte. So then what is the point of being licensed? If you are indicating that people that have expired licenses are still considered part of the fraternity, and therefore punishments can be meted out to them or rules and regulations can be applied to them, then what's the purpose of the license? What you are doing here, what Mr. Amin is doing here, is dangerous. It's dangerous in the sense that he's playing down the weight of a license, indicating that whether license has expired or not, you are still considered and you are still given the privileges that a licensed person will get. And that is why he went on to cite people or persons or that have not renewed their license but are accorded the same privilege that licensees get. This is why it's dangerous, because I am reliably informed that there are persons that have not been allowed to operate, whether they are a ring announcer, a promoter, a trainer, a boxer, because their licenses were expired. It is dangerous because these persons, with the pronunciations or announcements or whatever Mr. Amin is saying down, that people have been allowed to work over the years without a license, these persons that were forced to be licensed or were not accorded the same privilege can actually come back and sue the GBA for being biased. I think the license means something, and I do not think that we should downplay it in favor of what is happening between the GBA and Richard Coleman right now. I think the GBA licenses are valued, and that question about a driver having an expired license, not being a driver or being a driver, is the worst, I say, the worst analogy ever. Because if you do not have a driver's license and you drive, whether you are the best driver or not, if a police arrests you, you are going to face the consequences. That's the point of a license, not because whether you can drive or not. It's making sure that you are following the laws of having a license. And I think that is what I would want to believe. That is why GBA makes sure people get licensed. I have all the facts here. I have all the conversations here. I am not going to go through that. I thought what Mr. Amin Lamte said is bad for the GBA. He's essentially downplaying the weight of being licensed by the GBA. And I think such pronouncements should be stopped. I value a GBA license. I think all boxers, trainers, promoters, everyone in the fraternity should value a GBA license. And we should apply the laws and regulations according to the GBA license. You cannot just walk out and tell someone that, hey, just because you feel like a boxer, we consider you a boxer and you are welcome. I know boxers are required to get licensed. Just because someone is a trainer doesn't mean you welcome them into the GBA and they can go and train boxers. That is the reason why there's a reason why you asked for a license, Mr. Amin Lamte. So please do the needful, do the GBA, do your president, do your board of directors a favor and rescind that pronouncement you made in that conversation between you and K-Box TV and the examples that you gave. The GBA license, I believe, is worth something, and I don't think you should just say that non-licensees or people that have their licenses expired are still considered a part of the GBA and accorded the same privileges. I think that is false. You know that is false, but you just want to win your case against Comey, and so therefore you would downplay the weight of the GBA licenses. Again, I hope all parties come together for the good of Ghana boxing so that we do the right thing. At the end of the day, boxers suffer. I don't care what you think. It's not about a promoter. It's not about a trainer. The boxers suffer. For the love of boxing, for the love of Ghana, let's stop this war. And please, Mr. Amin Lamte, let's do a better job of addressing this issue in the public. Thank you.